Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark, and we have one of our authors as a guest today. And this book is really quite amazing. But before we get started and I introduce her, I want to remind you to go over and grab your free copy of Breakthrough Author Magazine. You can find that at www.breakthroughauthormagazine.com. Also, if you need to build an author platform, check out Author Traffic School. Author Traffic School is not only a place where we build assets, but also teach you how to drive traffic as well. And that's what a book launch is all about. It's a traffic drive. You can build the assets, and I know plenty of people who have, but you have to know how to drive the traffic to them once they're built. So today's guest is Kathleen Ball, and Kathleen's life work took a dramatic turn in 2015 after the Butte Fire in Northern California transformed her life. 9 days prior to this fire, she had just returned from Brazil after discovering a Knights Templar cave near a small town called Alto Paraiso. I hope I said that right. Several weeks later, she underwent a liver transplant, making it necessary to recuperate for a year and allowing her time to contemplate her future. Up until these events had happened, Kathleen had been a professional artist and an educator whose artwork was an expression of her life experiences. With a background in anatomy, sculpture, multimedia, archaeology, mythology, metaphysics, and mysticism, she used whatever media that best exemplifies the concept she wishes to convey. Since 2017, her art has taken the form of documentary. Her most recent documentary, The Brazilian Templar Mystery, was completed in 2019 and sold to Gaia TV in 2020 and has been out on Gaia TV since January of 2021. She plans to create a series of documentaries backtracking the history of the Templars prior to their arrival in Brazil and North America. And she's going to explain a lot of this in the interview. The book is an amazing read. It's always fun to go on an adventure, and this truly was an adventure. She's been interested in the Templars since she was in her teens. And so to discover this cave in Brazil was absolutely, I would like to say, the culmination of life's works, but she really got started with more of it and has more to share. So stay tuned for Kathleen. Welcome, Kathleen. It's great to have you here to talk about your book today.
All right. Yeah, it's wonderful to finally get it to this point.
I know this has been quite a journey for you. So tell us about, where did your interest start in this? Was this something from childhood? Where did you begin to find interest in the Knights Templars?
Well, the Knights Templar came a little bit when I was a teenager in high school. I'd heard about them, but not much. There wasn't much talk about them then. It really started when I got into my 30s and 40s. I started doing some pretty serious research about them. And then on my first trip to Europe in 2006, we followed the path of Leonardo da Vinci. And of course, the Da Vinci Code came out, right? That same year, the film. And so I followed the whole path of Leonardo all the way into France, where he passed, and delivered a portrait that I had sculpted to the Da Vinci Museum in Vinci, Italy. And I had understood through the Da Vinci Code that he was affiliated with the secret societies, the Palais de Sion and possibly the Knights Templar, although they were earlier. The Templars no longer were, in existence after 1320, and he came later. He came in the 1400s. I believe that all this esoteric knowledge has been passed down all the way to today to us through specific people, and I think Leonardo da Vinci was one. So anyway, so that was my real first getting on the track of the Templars and trying to find out about all these underground esoteric societies and what was going on with them. And in 2009, my husband and I went to France for our honeymoon, and we had a really interesting experience. We went into Dome, France. Well, first of all, our whole itinerary that we had set for the trip just blew out the door. It just completely blew up because the agency had not discovered, they had not figured out the distance between the towns correctly. And so they had us getting to places 5 and 6 and 7 hours later than expected. So anyway, but as fate will have it, every time, that my schedule gets disrupted, I find that then I'm on a path of something really great. So in 2009, we're in Dome, France. I'm there for an art exhibit. There's a grotto, and which is a cave where there's petroglyphs or some type of thing. We went down into that. I wasn't real impressed. We came up, and the curator for the museum comes over and he says, "Oh, would you like to see whether we kept the Templars, where the King Philip IV kept the Templars while they were awaiting their trial?" And I looked at him and I went, "I would love to." So he hands me the keys to the dungeon in Dome where they were held. And he says, "Bring the keys back when you're done." I was like, okay, of course I'm going to do it. So anyway, I went in and I was just flabbergasted because I picked up on their energy, and I picked up on all the devastation and the desperation, because they were not guilty, and they knew they weren't guilty. They knew that it was just a setup. But then at the end, I actually felt a sense of peace. But the important thing was I photographed all the graffiti. And we, after we left, and that was a very interesting experience, the whole rest of that trip anyway, which is in the book. But so fast forward to 2016. In the meantime, I've been doing a lot of research on the Templars and the bloodline of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, who they were supposed to be protecting. And and trying to figure out who these guys were, because so much was buried and we lost a tremendous amount of information on them. So anyway, so fast forward to 2015, I'm hiking in Brazil with a friend of mine, and we get invited to go to the property next door and see an area where there's just natural crystals laying all over the place. And there's a crystal vein that's like 1 meter wide, and it's about 1.5 meters tall. And it goes like, probably 3 kilometers. It's just this huge crystal vein. So I said, sure, let's do it. Of course, I'm always open to, happy accidents. So we go over there, and we're, after about a 5-6 kilometer hike, we find this crystal vein. It's awesome. And we've got our pockets and backpacks full of these beautiful crystals, that we're finding. They're just laying everywhere. There's thousands of them. So anyway, he says, and it's hot, and we're just pouring perspiration, both of us, my girlfriend Adele and I, were just absolutely exhausted. So he says, "Well, how would you like to go into this little cave and cool off? We can drink some water and have our snacks." And okay, sure. So we go down another 1.5 kilometers. And I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is total wilderness. There's nothing there but these beautiful waterfalls, which is what we had come to see originally. And just nothing. I mean, nothing. And so we get down, and he lifts up the bushes, and I just about fell over because there was a Knights Templar cross carved right above the cave. I mean, I was just in shock, and I started asking him these questions, and he, in his broken English and mostly Portuguese, he explains to me that the cave had been used for spiritual purposes for the old women, et cetera, but nothing really connecting them to the Knights Templar. So I go inside and I photograph a little bit of the graffiti and what I can see, but there's a lot of spiders and stuff in there. So anyway, we have our water, we have our drinks. I'm just totally jazzed. I can't wait to get back to the US and talk to some of my researcher friends and find out if anybody knew that the Templars were in Brazil. Well, I get back home and nobody knows anything about this. Nobody knows anything. So 2015, I get home, my house burns down. I have a liver transplant 6 weeks later. Just a whole, it was just it was a real down year. I mean, I wasn't much going on. So I gave myself a year to recover. And in 2017, so I had the transplant on November 5th of 2015, the end of the year. So the whole next year, I gave myself a time to just recover and get used to all, this new body part. And 2017, I went back into Brazil. I flew back to Brazil to try to rediscover the cave, but with a photographer this time. And no go, nothing's happening. We cannot get in. They have a fire there in Brazil. It covers thousands and thousands of acres. It's right in the area where my cave is. There is no way I'm going to get in to do this. So I'm really bummed, but I'm thinking, okay, all right. So I make arrangements with this photographer to go the following year in 2018 in the summer and try it again. So we go back in 2018 and the whole terrain, everything's changed. All my landmarks, everything are gone, completely changed. So after 3 days of having this poor photographer follow me tromping through the wilderness, and he's just about had it, he sits down in front and says, I'm not moving. If you find the cave, call me and let me know. So anyway, I'm walking up. I finally find the crystal vein again, which was like huge, right? And I know it's far from there, but I don't know which end it's at. I got to walk this whole thing, 2, 3, whatever it is, kilometers, one way, the other way. Finally, I come back and I just happen to look and I see this shadow in a rock outcropping. And I went, oh my God, I think that's it. And he looks at me like, you're crazy. You're just crazy. But anyway, so I dropped my backpack and I just went bounding down. It was, down. And I just went bounding down and I get there and I lift up the bushes and there it was. It was like,
oh, wow.
I knew it. So I called him. He came down. We filmed the whole thing, and of course, the rest is history. It's now on Gaia TV. The whole documentary is now on Gaia. But anyway, it was quite interesting. It was a miracle that I found it. I think it was just intuition that I found it again. And now I've got all the landmarks down, and then I can get to it anytime I want. I went back in 2019 again. I went back in 2021. And in 2021, I actually went back not only to do more investigation with the cave, but also to go and interview the Amazonian jungle natives. So I got into Alto Paraiso, which is the town that's near the cave, and come to find out that we're at the end of COVID. They're not coming into Alto Paraiso. I have to go into the Amazon jungle. So this was like, oh, okay. So this added, quite a bit of money to my budget for one thing. But I hire a photographer, or I have my photographer with me. I hire a translator, I hire a guide. We hop on a plane to Rio Branco, and then, the 8-hour trek into the Pinuya village. And I'm introduced to this. We're the first people, Westerners, allowed into this village. So it was huge for them. It was huge for us. And the chief was just amazing. He was just amazing. He didn't actually know whether the Templars whether it was his tribe that brought them into central Brazil or not. But he is investigating. He's friends with a lot of the other tribe, heads of the tribes. So he said he would, find out and get some more information for me. I was a little disappointed, but what happened as a result of that whole thing was I was invited into their healing ceremonies, and I had in my liver. So it was tremendous. It changed my life completely, because up until then, from 2015, when I had the transplant, until that moment, I had been on anti-rejection medications, which were destroying my body. They were just causing deterioration. I lost hearing. I lost a lot of what's going on. So anyway, as a result of that healing ceremony, I'm no longer taking anti-rejection meds. It's been almost 2 years now, and I have found no need to take those. So I had a healing, which,
Uh-huh.
in some people's belief is the ending of the Grail story. And some people's belief that that's what one of the things the Grail is for healing, transformation. And it has been a transformation for me. It's been a tremendous transformation, spiritually, psychologically, physically, on all levels. And, I'm not going to quit with this. I'm now hooked. I now have to find out more information. And I have another book coming out, the Templar Agenda, that will be coming out hopefully next year. And I
Uh-huh.
go into depth in the Templars' agenda, what other countries they went to, some backstory of a band of Templars, actually a band of knights that were organized during the second building of the temple in Jerusalem, that I believe there's a connection to some of those families and the families that were originated with the Templars in 1118. So I think that was one of the reasons they were able to go right to the Temple Mount. They went right into the tunnels and were able to discover a lot of the artifacts and a lot of the, I believe, genealogies and maps and all sorts of things. I think because it's family information passed down through hundreds of years. So my second book is going to be about that.
That is so cool. So I know, and you guys, when you buy the book, you'll see there's a whole center section that has images of this. So how brave of you to like go into the jungle. I just think of all those movies when we're kids where, you go in and the warriors are warring because they don't understand each other. Was that a little scary? Because I'm sure nobody spoke English. You felt
No,
safe.
No, it's about the heart. It's about a heart connection, which I believe the Templars had the same thing. I think I could actually envision myself being a Templar interacting with these people, because if you have a pure heart, these people know it. They know it. They read you. They read your soul. They read your heart. Otherwise, you don't get allowed into the tribe. You don't get any further. I was Yeah, and the same thing happened to me when I was interviewed by the Kalunga, who are the descendants of people that ran away from as slaves. They were enslaved in Africa and brought to South America as slaves by Spanish, well, a lot of Europeans. But these people ran away. And the Kalunga, when I was interviewed by the Kalunga, before I was even able to get in to see the elders, I was vetted. I guess you could. They want to know that you have a pure heart. Otherwise, you're not getting any further. That's just not going to happen. And so I never have any fear when I'm traveling. In fact, I travel alone most of the time. Now, when I go into different countries, I travel alone because I trust my intuition, and I don't have to be concerned about somebody else possibly having some sort of fear or hang up or whatever. I know that I can get into anywhere I need to go. It's always have doors open for me. They always open for me when I'm traveling. And so that's why I'm most alive when I'm boots on the ground, out traveling, doing my research, hands on. I'm one of those people that likes to be there. I need to pick up on the energy of the space. I also, I pick up a lot of visuals because I'm able to access the energetic, whatever, resilient that's there. I believe that each one of the sacred sites, they all carry energy forward, and we can access it if we just open ourselves up to it. And I've been doing this all my life, ever since I was a child. So I'm kind of good at it now. But anyway, yeah. Does that answer your question?
It did. Oh my gosh, that sounds like a great adventure. So I know in the book there's a nun. How was the nun? The nun was in France, wasn't she? How does she fit into all this?
Oh, that was on that same trip in 2009.
Yeah.
2009, I was given those keys. I gave them back to the curator. Afterwards, he's talking to me about, he said, he asked me, do you know what the Templars were protecting? And I said, well, I have some ideas. What's your take? And he said, they were protecting the bloodline of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. And he went into this whole spiel about, how there were 3 children, and, Mary, after raising the children, one ended up marrying into what later became the French monarchy. One supposedly went into Scotland, and one we don't know what happened. There's really no records, but there are many, many, many chapels dedicated to Mary Magdalene throughout France.
Yes, I've been to several.
Throughout France, all over. The French, many, many, many people in France believe in this bloodline, that it did exist, and that the Templars were protecting it. So anyway, so he said to me, he said, well, if you want to, find out a little bit about it, he says, you can go into Marseille. There's some places you can go and look in, through the archives and talk to people and blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, awesome. That sounds great. So my husband and I, the next day, we packed up everything and decided to go into Marseille, which was an interesting trip. But anyway, we get into the town square, and there's some chapels, there's a cathedral, and I just get this energetic hit to go into this cathedral. And when I first got there, the door was locked, and so we went and got a coffee and came back. And when we started to, go towards the door, this nun opens the door. She takes one look at me, and she starts crying and holding me and hugging me and telling me that she'd been waiting for me since college. She learned English in college so that when I came, she could speak with me. And so it was like, okay. And I just felt this familiarity toward her, but I did not recognize her at all. My eyes, I didn't. But I just felt this warmth and familiarity. And I thought, okay, so she hustles me off into her little studio, and she draws a map for me, and she tells me, promise, madame, you must go. You promise me you will go to Saint Baume, and you will do what you're instructed. You will do what comes to you, what you intuitively know how to do. You must promise me. And so I said, okay, I promise, of course we'll do it. And we, she hugs me goodbye, and we go off, and we go to try to find Saint Baume. We get into Saint Maximum, which is where the relics, the supposed bones of Mary Magdalene, are held in a little chapel there dedicated to her. We go there, I go through, I didn't pick up on anything really specific there. But we got back, we went to look for St. Baume, we couldn't find it. So we went ahead, and we had a meeting with some friends down on the coast in France. And so it was meeting them for the 4th of July. So we went down there, we met with our friend Fat Cat, who's this wonderful entertainer, and we did that. And that night I woke up just with this feeling like, I got to go back. I have to go back. I promised, and I have to go back. And so I drew this little hut in my sketchbook. And this is like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And when my husband finally woke up, I said, honey, we got to go back. And he said, well, we're going to go through a different way to go back. And I said, no. We got to go back into Marseille, and we have to follow those directions, that map that the nun gave us. And I have to go there. I have to do this. So he sort of a little begrudgingly, because he wanted to see another area, he said, okay. And so, but he knows now when these things happen to me, he knows that I have to do it. It's just, I have to do it. So we get up to Saint Baume. This time we drive right there. And I believe it was the divine timing that had to be right. And we go to this little convent. They take us in. It was kind of funny because we were newly married, but our passports had separate names.
Mm-hmm.
It's a room with 2 beds, 2 twin beds.
How comfortable.
Kind of a kick, right? It was a kick. But anyway, so the next morning we get up and we start the hike, the trek up this mountain where Mary Magdalene lived. in intercessory prayer at the end of her life. Some say 12 years, some say 17 years, however long it was. And I'm immediately feeling the energy. I'm immediately picking up on her. I can feel her energy. I can feel her drawing me up this mountain, and birds are coming to me. Butterflies are landing on me. I mean, it was just like I was in this surreal altered dimension. It was just this beautiful place. And we get up to the top of this. It's a grotto. It's another little cave. And it's all decorated with Catholic iconography everywhere. You know, Catholic statues, all of it, right? It's all over. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this would not have set well with her, you know. But okay, so I go into the space. It's been turned into a little chapel. I immediately sit down in one of the pews and I go into meditation. And the next thing that happens, I feel connected to the energy, and the energy is really dark in this place. I mean, just dark and dank. It's horrible. And I'm feeling all these energetic, I don't know what they were, entities or whatever, coming into my face, and they want to be released. And I'm like, okay. So I created like this vortex in my mind, and they just started swirling and swirling out of this place. And so the next thing I know, it's starting to feel lighter and lighter. And this, mind you, is going on for an hour and 45 minutes. I'm sitting in this pier, and you know, this energy is now all cleared, and I'm feeling this lightness, and then all this light comes pouring in, and these beautiful looking sort of angelic entities, but very ethereal, very, very, you know, not much to them, not much density. And it's just filling this place, and it's just beautiful and light, and I'm feeling wonderful. And I guess that's what the nun wanted me to do, you know, some sort of a conduit, you know, for this to happen. And so I open my eyes, and I've got this big smile on my face, and right ahead of me is a priest with a big smile on his face. And also there's 3 other priests, and a bishop had come in to lead the Eucharist, right? And so I'm just full of this joy and this just wonderful feeling. And the priest motions to my husband and I to join them in the Eucharist. And I'm thinking, well, I'm a Christian, you know, I can do this, you know, okay. So they give us the juice, they give us the cracker. We follow everybody. We're the last 2 in the procession of these people that had come into this chapel. And the bishop grabs the cracker out of my mouth and starts swearing at me in French. He's not happy. And I don't even think he knew what he was doing. But anyway, the priest comes over, intervenes. He apologizes to me quickly. They grab him by the arms and take him out of the chapel.
Wow.
So bizarre. Anyway, and I'm sitting on, of course, what comes out of my mouth is, please forgive him, Father, for he knows not what he says. Which all it did was just make him madder. He just got even more pissed off at me. So I'm thinking, boy, that was an energetic, you know, attack if I have ever had one, you know. But anyway, and I was just shocked that it came from this man. But, you know, the parishioners are just like, they're all just staring like, what is happening? And so anyway, so I'm in this space and I'm enjoying this beautiful energy, and my husband and I, and in comes this priest about 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, and he says to me, oh my God, he says, Madame, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please accept my apologies. I don't know what happened. We don't know what came over him, but we are so thankful for what you have done. Please stay as long as you want and enjoy this space. And so my husband and I said, you know, thank you very much. Of course we did. And, you know, and there was this one little area where there was some water. There was a lot of water. Because what this grotto was an upturned mountain, actually, that was coming down. And so there was this water that was streaming through. And the water had even gotten really dark and dank. So when I went over and I collected some of this water, and I brought it home with me, the water actually became clear. By the time I got home, it was actually clear, which was interesting. So anyway, so those kind of things happened to me ever since I had a near-death experience in 1990. I've had a zillion of these really bizarre experiences, helping people cross over when they die, just clearing energy in a land, in an area, just all sorts of strange things like that. But I accept it. It's like I know I'm open to the energy. It's kind of both a blessing and a curse, I'll say, because you have to do these things. You have a choice. But when I came back from the near-death experience, I knew that I was going to have a specific purpose. I knew there was going to be things that I had to do. So that was part of it. And I knew that, and I accepted that. So anyway.
That's so cool. So cool. So you guys, if you want to see the trailer, you can go over to templarsInBrazil.com.
Right.
And the book of A Grail Quest is going to be, we're going to be in pre-sale by the end of June, probably mid-June, but the actually book release is on July 18th. And you guys, it's definitely like, if you're an adventurer, if there's somebody who, has an interest in the Templars and, the whole journey, this is definitely something you'll want to take a look at. So thank you, Kathleen. Thanks for sharing your experiences.
You're very welcome. Very welcome, Juliet. Thank you.